Welcome back to the RV Canucks Podcast, Canada's RV podcast for weekend warriors, part-time travelers, and full-time adventurers at heart. Today is episode 64, and we are going to talk about our very first adventures as Harvest hosts, subscribers, members. From wineries, breweries, to farms and museums, Harvest Hosts offers over 9,500 unique locations across North America where you can spend the night in your RV. We're going to share what surprised us. We're going to talk a little bit about what delighted us. And we're going to talk about a few things that you should probably know if you're considering a membership, as well as, I guess, our verdict on if we think the value for money is there. Hi, Dan.
Hi, honey. I'm Dan.
It's been a long week, folks.
It's been something else.
You will see as we get into this episode, we're going to go on a bit of maybe a couple of tangents because it has been a busy few weeks, and you're going to understand why in a little bit. But before we dive in, a quick word from our 2025 sponsor, Niagara Trailers. Whether you're new to RVing or a seasoned road tripper, Niagara Trailers is more than just a dealership. They're a family-run team that's been helping Canadians hit the road with confidence for over 50 years. From sales to service to making sure your rig is road ready, they're the ones we trust to keep our adventures rolling. Check them out at niagaratrailers.com.
And tell them the RV Canucks sent you.
Okay, so Harvest Hosts. I'm actually really excited to have this episode.
Stay tuned because this is a bright spot in our RVing adventures.
Yeah, I'm almost a little embarrassed that we haven't had a Harvest Host membership already. It's been a number of years that we've talked about it. And I think just with the age and stage that we were at with the girls, it was always like a destination-based trip, kind of these one-night stopovers. We were usually kind of choosing to stay, on the interstate, at a truck stop, places where we could just like put the kids to bed and get up and roll the next day. And I think we maybe always kind of thought like Harvest Host would be maybe too far off the beaten path, or, why pay for that when you can stay at a Pilot Flying J for free. And I think we've totally seen the value in Harvest Hosts. I think it was 2021, actually, episode 29. If you go way back in the archives, we actually interviewed Marianne Edwards, who is the founder of Boondockers Welcome. And Boondockers Welcome is now a part of Harvest Hosts. And that's probably a good segue to even like talk about what Harvest Hosts is and how it works. But essentially, it's a yearly subscription. There's a couple of tiers of membership that you can join. And essentially, you have access to a website, travel app, on your phone, where you can go ahead and book places to stay for free overnight as part of the membership. And it includes places like, traditional Harvest Hosts category, which is like museums, farm shops, breweries, churches. Like you can find the whole gamut, any place that's essentially a business, I would say. And then you've got Boondockers Welcome options with the middle tier and the top tier of membership. And Boondockers Welcome is just folks like you and us who lend out their driveways for people to sleep there overnight. There's the option of, offering power if you want, offering water if you want, or offering just a blacktop driveway where people can stay. And then there's also golf courses. There are campground partners now on the app. So you can look up and filter even by like, if you're looking for example, like there's a couple of KOAs that have been on there and like family run campgrounds if you can't find anything to stay in the other categories. So it's a pretty well-rounded, group and a very eclectic group of businesses that you can choose to stay at.
I've even saw some small family run amusement parks, kind of think petting zoos and zip lines and corn maze kind of thing. So that's another option in there as well.
Yeah, we've even seen a couple of drive-in movie theaters, which I think is so cool. And it's definitely on our radar. We've saved a couple of them as favorites in our app, where you just show up and they kind of park you in the back of the drive-in. You watch a couple of movies, go to bed, and get up and leave the next day. So, it is a really neat, unique set of accommodations that you generally wouldn't find anywhere else. And that's kind of what attracted Harvest Host to us, especially for this trip where we were going out east this summer. And because it was just the two of us, our trip, as you were going to see, heavily focused on spirits of some kind, not the ghostly ones.
The holy trinity of liquor and booze.
so on this trip, we tell the folks where we stayed.
So we stayed at 3 Harvest Host locations. We stayed in Nakawik, New Brunswick at Big Axe Brewery. Mm-hmm. We stayed in Caledonia, PEI at Double Hill Cidery. Mm-hmm. And we stayed in Etna, Maine at Mossy Lodge Spirits.
Yes. So put your pitchforks away. We will talk about why we were in Maine further when we get into it. But maybe we'll start at the beginning. We'll talk about Nakawik, because I think that was one of the coolest places. I would definitely stay there again.
So just a refresher, we're traveling from Southern Ontario to New Brunswick, PEI in Nova Scotia with our RV. We left Ottawa on our next stage of the trip. We traveled through Quebec and we eventually arrive at Nakawik, New Brunswick at Big Axe Brewery.
Mm-hmm. And so this is our first ever Harvest Host Day ever. Super excited to find out. Well, number one, we actually, because remember, this was the trip where we were kind of winging it. We booked everything last minute. I think we got the last spot that was available. And the way that this particular setup worked, it was beautiful. The brewery's right on the river in Nakawik. And when you show up, I'm going to say there was like 8 spots.
8 or 9 spots. I think 8
is
their limit. And I think kind of somebody showed up unexpectedly.
But they made room for them, which I still don't recommend. Like, if you're going to join, make sure you use the app to book and make sure you get confirmation from the host that there's room for you. But the way that this worked was like the brewery was on one side of the road, and then on the river side of the road, there was just 8 spots lined up, and they were numbered. No power, no water, no fire pits, like things like that. But they were all numbered very neatly, and you just pulled up at the side of the road and you went into the brewery and chatted, and they just directed you into a site. You backed in, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, and I think this is like one of the things we kind of observed along the way is like when you arrive, it's probably apparent where you're going to be putting your trailer, but get yourself off the road, out of the way, go in and check in with them, because and any Harvest Host, I mean, they're going to have a spot where they want you to park your trailer, because you don't know how many other people are coming in and how big those trailers or RVs are. And I did notice a couple times where people kind of pulled in and, the person checking us in was kind of like, oh my goodness, rolled their eyes. So you kind of build a little bit of goodwill that way by just checking in, even if it's apparent to you where you're going to have to slide in. And it's like super friendly. It's the easiest check-ins we've ever done.
Yeah, it's no different than rolling up to a Walmart and like the expected practices that you maybe like chat with the manager of the store. If there aren't any rigs out there and you're kind of not sure if you could park. No different than that. It takes a few minutes and just establishes that goodwill for sure.
Yeah, so like I would say, and of course it all depends on like where you are in your trip, but if you're traveling that 401 corridor and you're going through Quebec and you're going down into the Maritimes through New Brunswick, it feels like it's a natural stopping point. It's really convenient just off of the highway, and it's quiet. So we didn't have air conditioning. We have a couple of rechargeable fans that we use. We were able to put the tip out. I think we're allowed to put the tip out.
Yeah, I don't think we put it all the way out just because of our neighbors, but you certainly could if it was less busy.
So really good experience there.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit of a hometown reunion, I think, when we showed up. So there's 8 people there. I say 8 groups.
8 units.
8 groups. There's like a really big, like 39, 40 foot fifth wheel with a long box dually pickup truck from South Carolina. Like that was the biggest one. And I say that because they can take some big rigs. And then we had like some Class B travel vans and kind of everything in between. Just by fluke, it turns out that one of the people, so we order dinner, we're having I don't remember what we had, but it was really tasty and the beer was good.
Pizza.
Pizza. So we're having our meal, and I think we had a casual conversation with the waitress, and she's like, "Where are you from?" We tell her where she's from. She was like, "Oh my God." Like, it turns out her mom lives 5-10 minutes away from us. And then somebody else at another table, they're like, "You're from there?" Oh, and then all of a sudden it was like half a dozen of us were all in this random spot in New Brunswick having a little chit chat in a hometown reunion. And then somebody else pipes up, "Well, we live a couple hours away in Grand Bend." And it turns out that they're next door neighbors at their cottage to somebody that Melina works with. So it was kind of a really cool experience. And
it was a very like the world is small type of night.
World is small, very friendly. There's kind of everybody kind of goes off, they eat their dinner, we go back to our rigs. But we ended up chatting with one of those couples and find out like we even have a closer connection to them. Like when you think of 6 degrees of separation, it's probably at like 2.5 with them. But anyways, all that to say is like, I think about that experience a lot, and it's nice to pull in somewhere and just chit chat with somebody. There was no obligation to it, right? Yeah. Like, you don't have to feel like you need to visit with your neighbors. If you just want to go to bed, play some cards, like, that's cool. Because there were lots of people that did that. But to like at the end of the day, just maybe decompress a little, share a couple of stories for half an hour. I think we got a tour of one fella's Class B van, and then he showed us some pictures of his Class B motorhome in Europe. And then we ended up chatting with these folks that are like 2.5 degrees of separation, had a beer for half an hour in their trailer. We went to bed. And so like, I think that was really a fun experience on a long travel day. It kind of recharged you for the next day.
For sure. And that was a very, very long travel day. So it's nice to have that. And I think one of the great things is, we're all kind of going into different areas, right? Like the couple that we visited with in their trailer, they were heading to Newfoundland, and other people were on their way home. Other people were going different places, but there was enough kind of collective experience there that when, 3 or 4 units were sort of chatting, there was always like, "Oh, if you're going here, you should really go see this place. This place is off the beaten path." So it's just a really nice, I think I understand maybe like RV and trailer rallies a little more now. Like, you get a wealth of knowledge in a collective environment like that, I started taking notes on my phone as people were talking of places that we should go and see on our trip, which I thought was really lovely.
Especially at that kind of place, because it's the gate. I wouldn't say it's the gateway to the Maritimes or the Atlantic provinces, but you have to go past this place on the Trans-Canada Highway to get to Nova Scotia, PEI, and everywhere else. So that's maybe where you get this collection of people that give you good travel advice. So that was really good. So that's our first day. Super quiet, great sleep. We was quiet. One fella did run his generator maybe till 9:30, 10 o'clock, but he ended up turning it off. Comfortable weather because it wasn't really a heat wave. Fans did their job. Like, woke up, recharged, ready to go. We went into the town of Nakawik, which is really, really small. It's really a hamlet. Beautiful park down by the river. We took kind of a walk through like kind of their gardens there, and there's a playground. There's a massive, maybe there's a big parking lot that seems massive in the summer because nobody's in it, because it's at the arena. The arena's an old barn. If you're from Canada and you know hockey, you know what I mean when I say it's a barn. So it was kind of a nice little place. We picked up a couple of groceries at a really small grocery store, like maybe a case of water and some fruit and a couple of coffees, and got on the road. So,
well, you're missing the point where we saw the world's largest axe stand.
And they have
their claim to fame.
They have the world's largest axe. So really good recharge spot first thing in the morning. And I think what I'm trying to say is we didn't feel rushed out of Big Axe Brewery. We didn't just jump right back on the highway, went like 5 minutes down the road to the town, did a couple of things, and then we got on with the rest of the day. So overall, like, I think we would recommend that place.
For sure. And you mentioned something actually really important where you said somebody was running their generator till 8 or 9 at night. And one of the really important things is to make sure that you're reading the
rules.
The rules, because every place has different rules. And some of them say, generators allowed all night. Some of them say no generators at all. Some of them say, quiet hours or 10 p.m. till whenever. So, there is a lot of information, and the listings are very detailed so that you can kind of pick out like, that's a place we would like to stay, or, we really don't sleep well if we know that 3 or 4 people are running their generators all night. So we're going to look for, a different comparable place. The other thing I would say is, when we say that you can stay everywhere for free, there is sort of that, like, be a good guest, right? As in, there's an expectation that if it's a business, that you would probably patronize that business. I would say you could do this very frugally. Dan and I did not, because everywhere we stopped, they tended to have food, and we would have a drink or two, and we got a souvenir or two. So really, it can be kind of as large or as small as you would like it to be. For us, it was like, this is still cheaper than a hotel or comparable to staying at a campground in terms of fees. So we were happy kind of doing what we did, and we didn't have to cook dinner at the end of a long day, which was nice. But, there is a sort of expectation, if there's a gift shop, stop in and grab something.
Yeah, buy, like, if it's a brewery, buy a 6-pack, mix and match. I'd say Dan's math makes this okay, because we were going to spend that money on a meal somewhere. We just happened to spend it at the end of the day when we stopped. So in my mind, these are two distinct expenses.
So what he's saying is Dan math is also girl math, and all the ladies listening know exactly what we're talking about.
And maybe just to come back to the rules, do read the rules. What I would like to just jump in and say, I think you found the app fairly helpful, in the sense that if we did have a question, you could send a message, get a clarification, which helped make a decision. So even if you don't end up going somewhere, you still made a decision based on good information. And so you were able to kind of go back and forth. And we kind of found overall everybody was responsive on the app.
Yeah, I think there was a few listings we browsed where it looked like the length restriction was not going to work for our rig. But then I actually went into the reviews, and we talk about this all the time. If you were using RV Parky, if you were using Harvest Host, if you're, staying at a Walmart and you want to leave a Google review or something, make sure you leave those reviews, because they are so helpful. There was a number of places where I'm like, oh, the length says we won't fit, but the reviews say that people were staying there in 38 and 40 foot, rigs. So, you can just send a quick message and say, hey, I see your listing says this is the length of our rig. Is that going to be a problem? And then you're going to get a yay or nay from the host. But, just one more reminder that reviews are so helpful to everybody using the system.
Yeah. So I think our next stay was Caledonia PEI at Double Hill Cidery, kind of in a relatively quiet and remote area of PEI, understanding that most of
PEI is relatively quiet.
Most of PEI is 45 minutes from the center of PEI.
Yeah.
So to describe this place, you are going to come down a normal kind of 2-lane highway, bit of a bend in the road. You're going to go down a dead end gravel road. Don't panic if you're the kind of person who doesn't want to go down a gravel road. It's almost a long driveway, really.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes you make a left turn into another long driveway, and you can see the cidery up on the top of the hill. If this is the place that you stay, and probably advice for other places, in addition to checking in and finding out where they want you to park, this is a good spot to stop and walk up, because it was like maybe 100 meters, 100 yards. If we had gone that 100 yards and we'd had to back up, that would have been not painful, but it would have been an inconvenience. So this is a good time to stop, go up, find out where you're supposed to be, back in, and get settled in.
Yeah, so there was a clear area, and again, it wasn't busy. We were the only people there actually that night, which was so lovely and very, very kind of cool and neat to be the only ones there at night, just kind of watching the sun go down over these farmers' fields. It was awesome. But there was a clear kind of parking area kind of at the bottom of the driveway, and then there was another parking area kind of up at the top of the little hill right beside the cidery, which is kind of why we just paused, walked up, and she said, hey, you're the only ones here. You can do either. And then we decided to stay at the bottom because it was a little more open and like the length was better for our rig. So we just parked and we traipsed up the hill to the cidery and enjoyed a flight of cider while we sat in beautiful lawn chairs overlooking the fields and the water way beyond. And we saw the orchards that the owners pick their apples from, and
lavender fields.
And then there was a ton of like games up there, right? So they have, they do have a little washroom up there and a tasting area and a ton of seats. And then they sort of have like picture, like kind of those outdoor tents that you would go to like an event tent, like if you were at a wedding or something outside, they have one of those set up with walls, and they have blankets and chairs inside and a ton of games like Scrabble and Jenga and all kinds of stuff. And they were like, yeah, we close at 6, but come on up and use the games. Like, the place is yours, kind of thing. And it was really, really beautiful. And the cider, like, I think I'm on my last can of cider that we brought home with us, and I'm really, really sad because it was delicious.
Yeah, this was a really nice spot. So it was a little warm that day, which was nice to go up and have the flight of cider, because we opened up the trailer, all the windows, because remember, we don't have a hookup, so there's no air conditioning. We got the trailer cooled down while we did all of that.
Mm-hmm.
The person who was the lady that was working there was super friendly. We visited with her. She just graduated university in Nova Scotia, was back home in PEI. So that was like, we had a good conversation with her, but she was also a good wealth of information. So the next day, and the reason we chose this spot is, again, it was close to the ferry that goes from PEI to Nova Scotia. We needed to be on the ferry. I think it was 8:00, 8:30. So the next morning was an early morning.
Mm-hmm.
This got us within like 15 minutes of the ferry. This person was like, listen, you're definitely 15 minutes from the ferry. This is what you need to know. If you need to get gas, go to this town. Like,
mm-hmm.
a lot of little information, which was helpful, which I'm not sure you would have gotten. You wouldn't get it in a Walmart parking lot. You wouldn't get it maybe at a provincial campground anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So super helpful that way. So again, another recommendation: no light pollution, super dark skies, like so quiet, it might even wake you up.
Oh yeah, it was stunning. Really beautiful. And I'm actually, so if you're ever at the Double Hill Cidery, bring home a glass for us, because we bought one beautiful little like cider glass, and I wish that we brought 2, because I think you and I fight over it now because it's so perfect.
So again, it's another great stay that we would recommend.
Yeah.
So we run into a little bit of trouble on this trip, mechanical trouble with the vehicle. So we make the decision to travel back through Maine, because that's a little more expeditious.
New Hampshire,
New York. So that's a little bit more expeditious and probably better for our setup to get us back home a little bit quicker.
Yeah. So we'll explain a little further. Yeah. So essentially what started happening is, thankfully, on our route home, once we had left Nova Scotia and kind of re-entered New Brunswick, we started having some transmission trouble. So, we were having some trouble with grades, and I will say kind of New Brunswick, definitely Nova Scotia was a problem for some of the roads that we were on in terms of like quality, the number of bumps that you hit, very narrow shoulders, and New Brunswick and parts of Quebec can be a little bit hilly, right? And this is the stark difference, I think, between Canada and the USA, is like our Trans-Canada Highway and our highways tend to move with the land, whereas like if the hills are there, we pave over the hills, and the highway goes up and it goes down, and it goes up again and it goes down again. Where the US, I think, they like to blow stuff up, maybe. I don't know. Their interstates are generally flatter, even in areas where there's a little more of a hilly geography. So we did make the decision to detour so that it would be easier on the truck, so we had a better chance of getting home. Because keep in mind, we were still like 18 hours from home, knowing that we were starting to have a little bit of trouble. Nothing was like breaking, but we knew we would have a trouble going home if we were to keep working those grades.
So was good trouble working the grades. The quality of the roads was good enough to travel around there if you weren't having problems, but like they filled a lot of potholes, and they filled a lot of potholes on the right hand side of the road, I noticed. So there's that component. The other part to this is these areas, relative to the way that we came home, are not densely populated. Right. There's not a lot of places to pull off or to get repairs or to get help. Whereas, but when you travel through, Maine's a little bit more remote for sure. But by the time like you get out of the other side of Maine, New Hampshire, and then you're into New York, like if you broke down, you were close to somebody and close to a tow truck. So there was a benefit to that. So that's why we came home through Maine. The other thing I will say is it's another good example of like the plan was never to come home through Maine.
Yeah.
But we were able to pivot quickly without having made plans months in advance and get ourselves home. So this is what gets us to Etna, Maine, where we stay at the Mossy Ledge Spirits.
Right, which is like a day of booking. As we crossed the border, I just opened the map on Harvest Host and I just started finding a place to stay. Luckily, they responded like rapid quick. Like within 2 hours, we had a response, and we had a couple other places picked out, and a couple of travel stops we could stay at, truck stops, if all else failed. But they responded, toot sweet, and again, this was another situation where there was room. I think there's room for 3 or 4 rigs at this place, and they had a really amazing setup. So you go down a long driveway again. And then you have the distillery building, and then you have the distillery equipment kind of beside the building. And then you have these 3 very clearly marked spots where you would back in. If there was a lot of traffic, the rules did say that you be prepared to unhook, because you might have to unhook. But there was only the 3 of us that were staying there in RVs and no other patrons. So we could stay connected to our vehicle. And they each had a little parking spot that you would back into, and then a little bit of AstroTurf. So you had your own little kind of grassy area beside your trailer where you could pull out your awning and pull out your chair. So it was a really, really beautiful setup.
Yeah, so we did have a little bit of a visit with the 2 waitresses that were working. Again, I think we had the place to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
They make some great spirits and some great whiskeys. I mean, one of their whiskeys will
peel paint off the walls.
It was
strong.
good. It was good stuff. It makes Tennessee look like light beer. So we really enjoyed it there. We didn't really chit chat too much with the folks that were beside us, but that was okay. It was a long day, and I think we were starting to get a little stressed with the vehicle, so that was okay. They were super friendly the next day. Actually, it was kind of, I don't know if you picked up on this. When we pulled in, they told us where to park.
Yeah.
And we just assumed that they worked there.
Yeah.
They didn't work there. They just kind of guided us in. So again, more friendly people along the way. I don't know what their names are. Don't think we'll ever bump into them again, but they're awesome people.
Oh, they were probably super friendly because they were coming out of the distillery as we were going in.
Yeah.
So I think they had a lovely afternoon. So those are kind of our first 3 stays. I think we have many more in the books.
Yeah. So we've done a Holy Trinity, right? We've done a brewery, we've done a cidery, and we've done a distillery.
So the next step is a winery.
Next step is a winery. I think there's a lot more places we could stay even close to home if you weren't doing a big road trip.
Mm-hmm.
We did have a canceled stay. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So one of these things is it's a community membership, Harvest Host, right? So you don't want to be that person that's always, booking a stay, canceling it, booking it, canceling it same day. They ask very much that you don't do same day cancellations if you can avoid it. And there's a rating, right? Everybody on Harvest Host has a rating, just like you leave ratings for your Uber driver and vice versa. You can be rated as a guest. And so we did have a Boondockers welcome spot where we were supposed to stay in somebody's driveway, but our plans had changed, that we changed the ferry time and it just wasn't going to work out anymore. So I did message them and I said, I'm so sorry. We do have to change plans. This was a lovely couple that lives in Cape Breton, and they're actually from Ontario and retired to Cape Breton to be closer to family. And they were like, absolutely no problem. Thank you so much for letting us know. Travel happens. We've been there, we've done it. And that's the one thing I really love about the Boondockers Welcome Host is they're just people again, you and I, who are we have room in our driveway. We can park up to a 24-foot Class B, come stay with us. Right. And so they're fellow travelers, so they know what it's like. They know what happens when delay happens. And I felt so bad. And I was just past the 24-hour mark, I think. And I just felt horrible. I was like, oh my gosh, we're new to this platform. We're going to get bad ratings. But they were so lovely and so gracious. But I think communication is key. Make sure that you're communicating with their hosts. If you have any questions, if you have to make a cancellation, there's just a messaging app that will go straight to them. And I think that's really important to know. But yeah, I think people do plan and prepare for you to come, and other people may not be able to book if you've got a slot, and you're only say 50% sure you're actually going to stay there. So I would say, make a reservation and stick to it, or don't make that reservation until that's where you're going to land if possible.
Yeah. And then I guess there's one more thing I'd say I'd give honorable mention to, and I think there's probably an episode in the future where we're trying to figure out what that episode looks like, but there's this travel in the Toronto to Montreal 401 corridor through Quebec. And we'll maybe talk about that a little bit later on another episode, but we would like to give honorable mention to the Drummondville Walmart. And so prior to hitting all these harvest hosts, if you've listened to the other episodes, you'll remember we left Ottawa. We didn't even leave Ottawa to hook up the trailer when we had a nail in the tire and had to get a flat repaired
Of our
unexpectedly
brand new
of
tires.
our brand new tire, which, of everything we've gone through over the last couple of weeks seems like peanuts now. But so we didn't know where we were staying that night is the point of the story. We had left Ottawa. We got through Montreal fairly easily. Actually, that was a pleasant surprise at rush hour. We stayed at the Drummondville Walmart. We pulled in and there had to be like a dozen people already there at 6-7 p.m. at night. So obviously, like, knowing you were allowed to be there, that was not in question. We knew we could be there. I think we found it on RV Parky, maybe.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. So we pulled in there. There was about a dozen. I think at one point you counted 14 different
It was.
units.
I think by the time we went to bed, it was 16 units
Yeah.
of all different sizes.
So normal rules apply. Like, kind of don't block the parking lot unnecessarily. Don't put all your awning and your tip outs out. But I will say the Walmart was not particularly busy that night. If you're going there from other parts of Canada or the US, make sure you check their hours, because I think their hours are actually a little bit shorter. They've got a grocery store, they've got a McDonald's, so you can get a cup of coffee in the morning. I think we grabbed dinner at night because we were just done at that point. Where I'm going with this is look around and kind of read the room, because we did end up not parking along a fence line. We parked perpendicular kind of to the fence along a big open stretch of open parking lot, which was kind of the common standard in that parking lot. We popped out our lawn chairs to eat our McDonald's, popped them back in. So like, read the room. You don't have to like follow all the etiquette of boondocking super seriously, but also don't take advantage of it either, is what I'm trying to say. So,
and when in doubt, go listen to episode 5. I think we should probably redo it, but it's still got some really good, etiquette and rules if you're going to boondock.
Right. So I just want to draw emphasis to this place, because I know there will be people from Southern Ontario, Eastern Ontario, people coming in maybe from Michigan, from Ohio, maybe they're, Detroit area. They're making that part of the trip. This is probably one where, like, listen, it is a Walmart. You didn't go on vacation to go to Walmart, but this makes your trip move so much smoother down the road to get where you really want to be, is the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah, for sure. And I probably should have said this at the very beginning of the episode. We have no affiliation with Harvest Hosts. We aren't sponsored by them. We don't have any discount codes that we can give you. We should probably ask them. But we just really wanted to do an honest review of what this membership is like, since it's so new to us, which is why I kind of didn't mention what we paid. I think we bought ours just before Christmas, or just right around Christmas time last year. And there was like a discount, like a seasonal discount on at that time. So I'm going to say, I don't know, my memory is going to fail me. It was probably about, I think the prices are in US, so I think it was about $100 Canadian for our first year. It'll be a little bit more than that to renew, but there is 3 tiers of membership. The classic just has Harvest Hosts and campgrounds. The moderate level, which is what we have, has Harvest Hosts Boondockers Welcome, which is the staying at people's houses and campgrounds. And then there's a top tier that also has like some golf courses in the mix, and access to the Escapees RV Club, which I don't know much about, but it kind of hits like a Good Sam's membership, where you can kind of get discounts, RV related discounts on things. So whether that's worth it to you or not, I do know I went on the website today just to like pull up how many locations that they actually had for this episode, and they are having a 15% off discount right now. So I think they do some discounts from time to time. So just hop on the website to check it out. But I would say value for dollars, it's definitely there for me.
Yeah, value for dollars, it was there. I would say there's some benefits and maybe some hidden savings. So it's easy. There are so many locations and so many places that you can stay that it really made for easy access. And by that, I mean, you're driving for a purpose. You're not diverting miles off the road to find a campground or something. You're just kind of popping off the highway. I don't think in any of these cases more than 10 minutes to go somewhere, which is the next benefit, which is quiet, right? Quieter than a truck stop or a Walmart parking lot for sure. So that's really good. I think it was like the biggest surprise for me was like how friendly it was. And it's not that we're unfriendly people, but just I was not anticipating like we'd be having a beer in somebody else's trailer or getting advice on what to keep an eye out for, or, just finding out where people had been. Like, that kind of was really nice. Like, you don't really see that when you stay at a provincial park. Nobody wanders over and says, hey, where are you going? You kind of go to your park and you do your campsite and you do your business. So that was kind of really nice, actually.
Yeah. And I love that what you said before, like it can be as social or as solitary as you want it to be, basically, which means it kind of fits the way that everybody wants to travel, for sure.
And if you plan correctly, food can be easier. Right? At the end of a long travel day, I think the last thing everybody wants to do is to go in and cook a 3-course meal in the back of the trailer without the benefits of electricity. So I think it made it easier. I'll just say, like, don't assume that they all have a restaurant. Read ahead, check what is the menu, right? Especially if you have a fussy eater. What are the hours? Like, common sense things. Don't plan your whole trip and just assume, oh, I'm showing up, there must be food. There might not be. So you kind of have to factor that into your planning.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point, because when we stayed at this distillery on the last night, the Nest Harvest Host night, they only do food on certain nights of the week, and we just happened to be there on a night that they did food, which was good. So always good to check the listings, for sure.
Yeah, and then I guess these are really simple things, and yet it feels like it always has to be said. But like, when you show up there, check in before you park. Maybe ask any kind of, I would always ask, especially at the last one at the distillery, like, there was a gate, like, is the gate going to be open if we leave early in the morning? What way do you want us to go? Little things like that, just to make that kind of thing a little bit smoother. But kind of that check-in, I think, is the first step. Don't just kind of, because we saw it, right? People just bowl right in and just kind of take over. Don't be that guy is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure. And if you've made it this far, we talked a little bit about the truck trouble. So maybe we'll finish off that saga. So we did make it home. Thank goodness. Barely. I will say barely. We made it home. So we've had quite a journey with our truck as of late. And for those of you who don't know, or for a refresher, we have a 2016 Ford F-150 Lariat, which we bought new. Only the first and only new car we've ever bought in our lives.
It has 255,000 kilometers.
Right. So, it's getting up there. Our intent when we bought it was like, if we can get 15 years out of this truck, we'll be super happy. Like, it's been about like 9.5 right now that we've had it. And so it is to the, I guess, time that we are having to replace important components on it. Unfortunately, we had this nail in our brand new tires that we put on for this trip. We just had done a repair to replace 2 of the catalytic converters, which is not a cheap job. So, I think it was kind of a bummer. We've just got the truck back after having a full transmission rebuild. So essentially, it wasn't the transmission, that was a problem. It was the torque converter. But as you drive, like, the torque converter can throw shavings into your transmission, which is not a good thing. And to replace the torque converter, you have to drop the whole transmission. So we bit the bullet. We just had the entire transmission rebuilt and everything put back together. So, we can get those last 3 to 5 years out of this truck before we upgrade, which was our original plan. And I will say, we tow within guidelines. Our trailer is not too heavy, but this truck has been through a lot. We have taken it across the continent 3 times, east, west, south, southwest, and it has seen a lot of grade and a lot of wear and tear. And it's just at that point where we're getting some of these bummer repairs done. But it's not quite time for us to upgrade yet, because when we upgrade, we are upgrading to our retirement rig, which will probably be a 5th wheel, in which case we need a larger truck. So we are trying to make this one work. And to add insult to injury, a week ago, I was T-boned in our other vehicle, which is just our commuting vehicle for work. And that was deemed a write-off. So we are waiting for the settlement and are going to shop for a new car for me. So it's been a crazy couple of weeks here in RV Canucks land.
I'll maybe add just a couple quick things onto that. So at the end of the day, we had the transmission rebuilt. They fixed the torque converter. They said, like, if we're going to do the torque converter, we might as well rebuild the transmission. Also done in that was the exhaust manifolds,
Mm-hmm.
and they put everything from the muffler back was replaced because a muffler hanger broke, which I suspect has to do with all of the right hand lane pothole fixes that happened in the Maritimes. So like there's been a lot of work done to the truck. There's probably another podcast episode in this because
Mm-hmm.
we're having this and I don't think we're ready to share all these thoughts because we gotta like go through it. We gotta like make it coherent. But the conversation is like, well, do you trade in the truck and buy another truck? Well, do you buy the trailer before you buy the truck? And I know we've talked about this in the past. We're
Mm-hmm.
now going through this,
Mm-hmm.
and I think our solution right now is just to get a couple more years out of this. But there's probably another episode as we figure out like what comes first, the truck or the trailer, and then of course we gotta figure out a whole nother vehicle. So there's lots of stories to tell down the road.
Yeah.
But it's been a month.
It has been a month. And not to mention, too, like the emotional journey and the emotional toil of making a decision. Then, if you're going to upgrade the truck, to upgrade the trailer. And I'm not ready to let go of our trailer because we've had that trailer for 10 years, and that trailer has seen almost all of the RV Canucks adventures, and has grown with our family and taken our family everywhere. So it is going to be a very sad day for me when we let that trailer go.
It is. And maybe that's brings us to the end of our Harvest Host episode here. There's definitely a few more stories to be told, but I think overall we're big proponents of Harvest Host, and I think I never thought it was going to be a bad experience. It was just better than I thought it was going to be, and I think I found it much more relaxing to make our trip. It made the trip a lot more relaxing, which made the trip feel a lot shorter.
For sure. Yeah.
Right?
It just allowed that bit of energy at the end of a long day. And on that note, it's been a very long day here. So we're going to sign off, and we will see you again on our regular schedule in a couple of weeks.
Indeed. Have a great week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.